Hello, and welcome to the Lewis and Clark story.
95% of what we're about to tell you is fact. The other 5% is mostly jokes.
We enjoy those jokes, almost as much as these facts. I'm sitting here with acclaimed Lewis and Clarkist Jack Goldenweathers.
I can hear my father yelling.
He's excited for history is what he is. Now, let's strap in. The story begins on January 18th, 1803, when the U.S. President Thomas Jefferson, our favorite President Jefferson, sends a secret message to Congress asking for approval and funding of an expedition to explore the western part of the continent. Jefferson thought to himself, what are we gonna do to make this country better? And the answer came. It came in an omen. It came with the West. Lead to spring 1803 when Meriwether Lewis is training as the expedition's leader in Philadelphia. Lewis, the original and best Wester Lewis, was getting ready for a journey of a lifetime. Flash forward to July 4th, 1803. News of the Louisiana Purchase is announced, and Lewis will now be exploring land largely owned by the United States. In my opinion, slightly ironic, like reserving a restaurant without checking Yelp first, but that's beside the point, really.
In the summer of 1803, Lewis oversees the construction of a keelboat in Pittsburgh, then takes it down the Ohio River to pick up William Clark and the other recruits. I can only assume this is an approximation of the famous Mean Girls scene, "Get in, loser, we're going exploring." In the fall of 1803, Lewis and Clark established Camp Wood, the winter camp for the Corps of Discovery, on the Wood River in Illinois. On March 10th of next year, Lewis and Clark traveled back to St. Louis to attend ceremonies formally transferring Louisiana Territory to the United States.
On May 14, 1804, the Corps of Discovery leaves Camp Wood and begins its journey up the Missouri River, under a gentle breeze, it is said, and documented. By way too many people, frankly, the predecessor to social media oversharing. On July 4, 1804, the Corps holds the first Independence Day celebration west of the Mississippi River. And on August 3, 1804, north of present-day Omaha, Nebraska, the Corps holds a council with the Otto and Missouri Indians. And on August 20, 1804, same time, St. Louis and Clark Place, Sergeant Charles Floyd dies of natural causes near present-day Sioux City, Iowa. Oddly enough, the only fatality among the Corps of Discovery during the expedition. Good for them! But what's American history without a little death?
On August 30th, 1804, the Corps holds a council with the Yankton Sioux, present-day Yankton, South Dakota. In early September 1804, the Corps enters the Great Plains, only to make a grisly discovery. They're the first people to document the grizzly bear, among other animals. Funny joke. On September 25th, 1804, the Corps has a tense encounter with the Teton Sioux near today's Pierre, South Dakota, until one of the Sioux chiefs waves his men off and the conflict is luckily averted. October 24th, 1804, near today's Bismarck, North Dakota, the Corps arrives at the villages of Mandan and Hidatsa, buffalo hunting tribes that live along the Missouri River.
On November 4th, 1804, Lewis and Clark hire French-Canadian fur trader and affluent enjoyer of Indian teenagers, Toussaint Charbonneau, and his Shoshone wife, Sacagawea, to act as interpreters for the journey ahead. Also known as Sakakawea if you're in North Dakota, but that state didn't exist yet, and we all kind of wish it still didn't, so we'll forget about that name. December 17th, 1804, the men record the temperature of 45 degrees below zero, colder than they ever knew it to be in the States. And it was terrible. Just terrible. December 24th, 1804, the men finish building Fort Mandan, their winter quarters in present-day North Dakota, where Sakakawea is the key name. January 1805 is when the Corps attend a Mandan buffalo dance performed to call the buffalo to the area, where later the white men would kill them to make the railroad. This great blood sacrifice dance would go down in history. February 11th, 1805, Sacagawea's son, John Baptiste Charbonneau, nicknamed Pompey. Pompey? Gosh, that's weird. By Clark, is born with assistance from Lewis. Thanks, Lewis.
On April 7th, 1805, Lewis and Clark send a shipment of artifacts and specimens back to President Jefferson. The shipment includes alive prairie dogs and 5 birds. It is not specified whether or not they are alive. The permanent party heads west. On April 29th, 1805, the Corps marvels at the abundance of game they find. They kill the newly discovered grizzly bear, thus sparking man's rivalry with bear. On May 16, 1805, one of the boats nearly overturns, and Lewis credits Sacagawea with saving the most important possessions. Like Pompey. Pompey?
On May 31st, 1805, the Corps reaches the White Cliffs region of the Missouri River, which until they arrived was just called the Cliffs. Take that as you will. June 1st, 1805, the Corps reaches an unknown fork in the Missouri River and must determine which branch to choose. They chose wisely. And June 13th, 1805, Lewis reaches the Great Falls of Missouri. 5 massive cascades around which the men must carry all their gear, including their canoes. And late July 1805, the expedition reaches the 3 forks of the Missouri River, which they named the Jefferson, Gallatin... Wait, who was Gallatin? Never mind. And Madison, in honor of the President, the Secretary... Oh, he was the Secretary of the Treasury. And the Secretary of State.
On August 8, 1805, Sacagawea recognizes Beaverhead Rock and knows they are close to Shoshone lands. They were famous for their beaver.
Hunting!
On August 12, 1805, Jefferson receives the shipment from Fort Mandan. Just now. Those birds are most likely dead. Lewis finds the headwaters of the Missouri River and crosses the Continental Divide and let me pass to discover that there is no Northwest Passage. Great! On August 17, 1805, the main party arrives at the Shoshone camp, where Sacagawea recognizes the chief as their long-lost brother, Kamehameha, and he Kamehameha to meet her.
Ha! August 18th, 1805, Lewis celebrates his 31st birthday and vows, in the future, to live for mankind, as I heretofore lived only for myself. Selfish, selfish Lewis. Didn't he kill himself? I think he killed himself. Depressed, depressed Lewis. August 31st, 1805, the expedition sets out for the Bitterroot Mountains with many horses and a mule acquired from the Shoshone. That mule would later go on to tell his tale of the stories of Lewis and Clark and the mule. September 9th, 1805, the men camped near today's Missoula, Montana, at a spot they named Traveler's Rest. Convenient. We'll let Pompey name that one. While they prepare for the mountain crossing to come. On September 11th, 1805, the Corps begins the steep ascent into the Bitterroot Range of the Rocky Mountains. The crossing will cover more than 160 miles, or 260 kilometers if you're a nerd. On November 7th, 1805, believing he sees the Pacific, Clark writes, "Ocean in view, oh the joy!" In reality, they're just seeing the widening estuary of the Columbia River. I imagine Lewis is openly mocked for his ineptitude. Poor, poor Lewis. He spelled ocean, O-C-I-A-N. Poor, poor boy. November 24th, 1805, having reached the Pacific, the entire expedition, including Sacagawea and Clark's slave... Yeah, let's not forget that Clark brought a slave. York, take a vote on where to build their winter quarters. They choose the Clatsop Indian side of the Columbia. The encampment came to be called Fort Clatsop.
On March 23, 1806, after a winter of only 12 days without rain, the men present their fort to the Clatsop Indians and set out for home. Basically, they were like, we're done with it, you can have it. On September 23, 1806, having found an easier route across the country, the men reached St. Louis nearly 2.5 years after their journey began, and are acclaimed as national heroes. Clark commits suicide.
Lewis commits suicide.
Lewis commits suicide.
Also, Sacagawea's husband was kind of creepy.
He had 5 wives, and they were all teenagers.
His last one was 12 when he was 70. Just take that in for a moment. And when he died, actually not when he died, but like, Clark got custody of his kids when Sacagawea died. Creepy guy.